Hello, I'm Tricia Durdey. Welcome to my studio. Come on in. It's a winter night in Sheffield, and I'm hanging upside down in a hoop, suspended from the beams of the circus school. I'm not very far from the floor, but the way I feel, I may as well be.
Tell me how you came to be a dancer.
When I was just three years old, my mum took me to a ballet lesson, really because I was so shy. And it was a bit of a nightmare. I actually talk about it in the performance. I was very intimidated and did very, very little. And at the end of it, my mum said, we won't bother with that anymore. And there was something in me that knew that I needed to do it, even at 3, 4, whatever age I was. And I said, no, I have to go back. And so that's how it started. And then throughout my life, there were kind of hiccups with that. But every time I nearly gave up, or had breaks from it, nearly gave up, something would always come in and make me get back to it again. My teacher said, that'd be a great shame if you gave up. So I thought, okay, kept going, and so it went on all my life. And it's actually always made me feel, it's helped me to learn about things, about life, about other people, about myself. It's helped me to survive emotionally, I would say. I'm scared. I've always been scared. I'm scared of heights. I'm scared of having nothing to hold on to. And I'm scared of falling. Fear is here in my body and in my mind. Both hands, and spring up to wrap one leg round. Let go with one arm. This is Delilah. It's the very first movement we learn in aerial hoop. Let go.
How did you end up getting to Amsterdam and dancing in Holland?
I saw a wonderful choreographer in London. I was in London doing my 3-year performance arts course at Trent Park, which was a wonderful place. I went with my friend Sarah to see a performance by a Dutch choreographer called Pauline de Groot. When I was 21, I packed a rucksack and I left London for Amsterdam and the State Theatre School. I wanted to work with all the European dancers. Under the vast roof of Liverpool Street Station, I stepped up onto the night train for Harwich. As the train drew out and the station disappeared into the gloom, I felt cast off, utterly free. I don't think Pauline knew I was coming, but I showed up at the school and said, I want to join, and they said yes. So it was a very generous thing. I quickly learnt the counts 1 to 8 in Dutch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Armen, benen, rücken, hoofd. Hoofd, rücken, benen, armen. The rest was impossible. I tried to understand by watching people's faces and the way they moved. Autumn came. I'd hardly spoken to anyone. I was alone with my language. I wanted to go home, but a voice inside said it was too soon. I had to stay. There was so much to learn and I'd hardly even begun. And then one day, in class, as I danced with each person, I felt as if I really knew them. Through touch, through the way that they moved. We were caught in a flow of dance. Dance was the universal language.
So I'm also aware that your wonderful book, Green Table, is also set in Holland. Was that something, a story you already had in mind, knew about things happening in
Oh, I
Holland?
knew about things. When I lived in Amsterdam, I lived for the second period of time in a room above a physiotherapist with a costume designer and her family, and I was sort of a part-time au pair. But that room looked out on the Anne Frank attic. The Green Table is a piece of choreography by it's a wonderful dance actually by Kurt Joost. And he lived in Germany, and this piece of choreography won awards. It was a very anti-war piece and it won awards. When Hitler came to power, Hitler wanted him to get rid of all the Jewish members of his company, so he said, no, I'm not going to do that. And then he was tipped off he needed to get out of the country like overnight. So it's a bit like The Sound of Music, where they escape overnight. So I took that as a starting point of my book.
Obviously, you're a really great storyteller because you've managed to write these books, and also, the storytelling of your performance.
I'd already written the 2 novels, and then lockdown came, and I started to try and write about dance and why dance had helped me survive, really, because I survived a sort of breakdown through dancing. Well, it was a breakdown. I started dancing and I got better. I started to write about that, and then I thought, actually, I'm learning aerial hoop. And I'd always been scared of, as I said, scared of being off the floor, upside down, all that. And so it felt like a real challenge. So I thought, oh, that would be a really interesting framework to hang the stories about, my parents dying and my dance training and all the rest of it. What does learning aerial hoop mean for me? It's both frustrating and painful, but it's also exhilarating and joyful. After a while, my hands get stronger. I get calluses on my palms. My arm is at last able to hold me as I lean out into space. Awesome, the power extended from arm to shoulder to spine. And then there's the group. There's such a bond between us as we work together, holding, exploring, supporting each other. There are moments in life when it seems possible to recognise and fully inhabit the fragile, resilient and amazing body we were born with. So it became learning aerial hoop, with all the stories of childhood, stories of my sister and I having to pack up the family home after both parents had died of dementia. It became about how one survives looking after parents with dementia, about letting go of a 60-year-old family home, as well as me surviving the depression. So, but then the great thing is, you learn something new, age 60, and it was scary and wonderful at the same time.
It's quite a big challenge to sort of choreograph your performance within a hoop that you're not familiar with, and at the same time to talk about some really difficult and sensitive topics, around the death of your parents and dementia. That must have been quite a challenge.
Life. A series of dances from childhood to old age. For 6 months after his longed-for 90th birthday, my father spent more time than ever in the garden, sweeping the leaves and clipping the edges of the lawn. He was sweeping the path the day he fell, August bank holiday. The neighbours found him crumpled on the granite steps. They helped him up and he seemed fine. And for a week he staggered on. And then he was no longer so fine. And I was called. In a way, I move into a kind of different zone. So there's so much work. First of all, the book. So I'd written about it, and that had taken, and then there's a lot of editing, so you go into a different zone. And then I had to extract some kind of a script for, it's a 40-minute piece, from the text. So that was another kind of discipline. There's a lot of steps of discipline that go on. So you've done your emotional bit, when you even thinking about it, or even living it actually. I wrote, the very first thing I wrote was all about Dad dying, and I did used to, when I read it back to myself, it always used to make me cry. It was an incredible experience, the last week of Dad's life. Same with Mum. But so the first thing was writing the script, writing the book, writing the script. And then the very difficult thing in rehearsal was, when I first started working on the piece physically, I got the hoop, that was difficult. But actually talking, imagining an audience and talking to them was for me by far the hardest. Here we go. So I used to just walk around the studio, this little studio, in a circle, saying the lines. And then I got my friend, who was my teacher at Trent Park, Wendy Cook, who's a choreographer and director, to come in. And at that point, I had a script. I had various places I was walking on the floor, and I had nothing else. And she, no expression, I just did it very flat. So she worked, and as I got used to her being there, and so it developed from there. And I did it for the first time in my studio on last September. I only had one performance booked for 12 people, and I got a great response. So after that I did another 10 performances. So I think about 100 people saw it overall. And I raised quite a lot of money for a young aerialist to go and train, so that was nice. One night, when I was still a child, my father decided we'd have our own party. My parents drank wine and ate peanuts, and we children larked around and flung the cushions on the floor. Our own special party. And then my mother showed me all the steps that I couldn't do from my dancing class. She'd watched so many times. There we were, my mother and me, dancing together. Woman in the moon sits inside the hoop, spine curled, legs bent, toes touching the ring of metal. There she is, perfectly balanced, arms dangling, head to one side, at rest in the strangest position. Your mother's dying. They tell us, my sister and me, in a little room in the hospital. We know, of course, but it's still a shock to hear. We sit in silence. We sit for a long time. The sun streams through the window onto her bed. We sit until her body is cold. Her left hand still holds warmth. It's concentrated in a little circle on her palm, and I can't let go until that small warmth has seeped away, and her hand is cold, and the fire has gone out at last. August 2019. It's curious being in the empty house. No furniture, no music, nothing to hold on to. And how to dance, how to move my feet, how to get from here to here. My body knows the sensation of stretching, of reaching and rolling, of how I like to feel my strength by pushing against hard surfaces, the floor, the wall, the softer resistance and give of another dancer. But here in the empty house there's nothing. No clear impetus, no direction. So I wait, and I listen. And then, in a breath, it begins. And then there's completion, an ending. And then there's a new beginning. at each stage I've gone, I wonder what next, will it work? I've been very cautious. It's like, oh, I'll try a performance, I'll do it for 10 people. Oh, it worked. Now I'll do it 10 more times. Oh, that worked. Now I'll try it with a frame. Oh yeah, that worked. So now I'm trying it in the round, in small spaces. If that works, then maybe I'll look at getting small, studio theatres and things. And yeah, from there.